I didn't come to the Arizona desert looking for a fight. I came looking for the sound of nothing. After 21 years as a federal investigator chasing land fraud, forged deeds, crooked county clerks, and developers who could make entire subdivisions disappear on paper, the noise of the world had started to feel permanent. I'd spent too many nights in windowless rooms watching millionaires cry about misunderstandings, while the little guy lost his family farm. I was tired of the politics, the favors, the way good evidence got buried under bad politics. So at 49, I took the early retirement package, shook hands with people I'd never miss, and told my wife Laura and our daughter Sophie to pack light. We were going west until the road ran out of excuses. We found 6 acres of raw, unincorporated land 20 minutes outside a retirement enclave called Sun Valley Estates. The realtor called it off-grid adjacent. I called it perfect. Adobe house with thick walls that kept the heat honest, terracotta roof baked the color of dried blood, a wide porch that wrapped the house like an embrace, and a separate 3-bay garage big enough to swallow a 67 GTO hole. Most important, the parcel line stopped at the county road. Sun Valley's fancy gates and pastel stucco walls were on the other side of that line. I checked the survey myself, twice, with a county assessor I'd put in jail 15 years earlier for taking bribes. He still owed me. He confirmed it. My 6 acres were clean. For 8 straight days the only sounds were wind hissing through creosote, Sophie laughing as she chased the dog with a tennis ball the size of her head, and the low growl of Flathead V8S coming back to life under my hands. Laura planted heirloom tomatoes in raised beds she built from scrap lumber I'd salvaged. I drank coffee on the porch and watched heat lightning dance over the ridge at the back of the property like God was testing the wiring. I slept better than I had since 2003. Then the envelope showed up. It was wedged under the front gate like a splinter. Thick cream stock, gold-embossed return address, Sun Valley Estates Homeowners Association. No stamp. Someone had walked it over in person. I carried it inside and set it on the kitchen island next to my coffee the way you set down a loaded gun you're not sure is safe. Laura took one look and knew. Certified mail bad. Hand-delivered worse. I slid it open with the same pocket knife I'd carried since Desert Storm. 3 pages of smiling legalese informed me that my contiguously relevant parcel had been identified for mandatory integration into Sun Valley Estates. 10 days to pay a $4,800 initiation fee and begin monthly assessments of $378, or face administrative remedies and potential legal action. Laura read it over my shoulder and laughed once, sharp. They spelled contiguously wrong in the first paragraph. They spelled jurisdiction wrong in their heads, I said. Contiguously relevant is not a legal term. It is what you write when you want to sound official to people who don't know better. I spent my career putting people in prison for less creative fiction than that. I drafted a response that night that could have been used in a training seminar. Every statute, every map citation, every case precedent that proved my land was private, sovereign, and eternally outside their reach. I mailed certified copies to the HOA, the county recorder, the planning department, the state attorney general's office, and, because old habits die hard, I printed an extra copy, drove over after midnight, and stapled it dead center on their sacred community bulletin board, right beneath a laminated sign that read, "Welcome new neighbors. Let's build community together." A woman in a robe and curlers watched me from her driveway. I tipped my hat. "Public notice, ma'am. Perfectly legal." Laura was waiting up when I got home, arms folded, half amused, half terrified. "You couldn't just mail it? Where's the fun in that?" 2 days of silence followed. Then, on a morning so still the lizards didn't bother moving, I found footprints 50 yards inside my fence line, heading toward the ridge at the back of the property. Light, deliberate, measured, female-sized. I followed them past the mesquites until I rounded the corner of the workshop. She was standing in the shade of my own building, clipboard clutched like a hymnal, sunglasses reflecting the sunrise so I couldn't see her eyes. Mid-50s, posture like a flagpole, hair bleached the color of desperation. She wasn't looking at the house. She was staring at the ridge, scribbling numbers, sketching sight lines, muttering measurements under her breath like a surveyor on a mission from God. I stepped out slow. "You're a long way past the no trespassing signs." She didn't flinch, didn't apologize. Just clicked her pen, folded the clipboard against her chest, and turned with the kind of smile that never reaches the eyes. "Vivian Caldwell," she announced, as if the name should part the Red Sea. "President of the Sun Valley Estates Homeowners Association. I wanted to personally ensure you received our welcome packet." "I received it," I said. I responded. "And right now you're trespassing." Her smile thinned to a razor. The previous owners resisted integration as well. They were gone within a month. I took one step closer. "Ma'am, I investigated people who made the previous owners look like saints. I'm not them." For just a heartbeat the mask slipped. Uncertainty flickered, then got shoved back behind practiced arrogance. She spun on her heel and marched across my land like she was reviewing troops on parade. Laura met me at the door holding coffee and worry. That was her. That was her. And she was measuring the ridge? I nodded. "She's not after dues, Laura. She's after the back 40. That night I started cameras. Not the cheap Wi-Fi kind that die when the coyotes chew the cable. Hardwired, battery-backed, motion-triggered, night vision, thermal, cellular uplink. The whole federal surveillance package I'd learned to build when agencies wouldn't spring for it. By the time I went to bed, there wasn't a square foot of my 6 acres that wasn't watched by something with a lens. The first police car showed up 4 days later. I was under the hood of a '66 Bronco when 2 county cruisers rolled up slow, lights flashing, but no sirens. The lead deputy was tall, calm, eyes that had already seen too much. Nameplate read Hayes. His partner had a mustache that looked like it was still waiting on puberty. Morning, sir. Got a report of possible squatting at this address. I wiped my hands on a rag and walked to the gate. Let me guess. Blonde woman, sunglasses at 8 a.m., voice like a rusty hinge. Hayes almost smiled. Description matches. I invited them in, laid out the deed, the title insurance, the parcel maps with my boundaries highlighted in red, the surveyor's seal still fresh. Hayes went through every page like a man who'd been burned by sloppy paperwork before. When he finished, he handed everything back with a nod. You're clearly the owner. Sorry for the trouble. As they turned to leave, I saw her across the road. Vivian, arms folded, flanked by 2 board members in identical pastel polos, watching like a hawk that just missed its kill. Hayes saw her too. He exhaled through his nose, the sound of a man already tired of someone. That was visit number 1. Visit number 17 came 90 days later. By then Hayes knew I took my coffee black with 1 sugar, and which porch chair didn't creak when you sat in it. The complaints had grown creative: illegal trench digging, a drainage swale, unauthorized burning, a single Weber kettle, possible weapons discharge, me test firing a rebuilt carburetor, and finally, the one that made my vision go red, child endangerment. It was a Wednesday, heat shimmering off the ground like water. Laura and Sophie were filling a kiddie pool in the side yard, laughing over the hose fight. A cruiser screamed up like it was answering shots fired. Hayes stepped out, face tight, no partner this time. Tom, we gotta report your daughter's unsupervised around hazardous chemicals. Laura went rigid. Sophie looked scared. I walked them through the yard, garden hose, sunscreen, a pitcher of lemonade. Nothing else. Hayes wrote the report in silence. When he finished, he looked across the road where Vivian stood watching, sunglasses reflecting the sun like twin mirrors. This one was malicious, he said quietly. Document everything. Every call, every timestamp. Some of us know who the real problem is. That night, I found the reason for all of it. Buried in a glossy HOA newsletter was a small map of future community enhancements. A dotted line labeled Proposed Access Corridor ran straight through the ridge at the back of my land. I scanned a tiny QR code in the corner. It linked to a page that had been taken down, but the file was still on the server. I pulled the source code, found the RAAL document, a memorandum of understanding between Sun Valley Estates and a developer called Pinnacle Luxury Communities. They were planning an 18-hole golf course and clubhouse. The only viable utility corridor and access road ran across my ridge. The agreement required the HOA to deliver a recorded easement by June 30th or forfeit a $600,000 completion bonus. Vivian Caldwell had already pocketed a personal $45,000 consulting deposit wired to her individual account 3 weeks earlier. She had 23 days left and one obstacle, me. Now I understood the footprints, the trespassing, the escalating insanity. She wasn't trying to annoy me into joining. She was trying to break me into selling or force the county to condemn the easement for public safety after enough complaints painted me as a danger. She'd weaponized the system against a man who wrote the playbook on beating it. The sabotage started small. For barrels of old motor oil dumped on my back line at 2:06 a.m., caught on trail cam by 2 HOA maintenance workers in Sun Valley polos. I left the barrels exactly where they sat and called the county hazmat team myself. They traced the serial numbers to the HOA maintenance shed within 6 hours. Then came the fire. I was welding at midnight when the heat sensor in the shop screamed. Flames licked up the dry brush toward my storage shed. 10 feet from 20 gallons of paint thinner and a row of restored cars worth more than the house. I killed it with the hose, hard hammering, and found the half-melted mechanic's glove in the ashes. Cheap brand sold in the HOA golf cart barn. Same brand worn by Vivian's 19-year-old nephew Luke, who thought burning down a veteran's shop would make him a hero to Aunt Viv. The thermal camera caught him sprinting away, limping when the backdraft singed him, jumping on a dirt bike with no plates, and a rattle you could hear from space. I bagged the glove, saved the footage, and waited. 2 nights later they sent Mark, Vivian's cousin and HOA treasurer, into my workshop to steal whatever evidence they thought I had. I left the door cracked an inch, a single folder on the bench labeled V. Caldwell Fraud, Originals. Inside were decoys and 1 sheet at the bottom. Smile, Mark. You're on camera. He found it. He panicked. He confessed on hidden mic that Vivian promised him a cut of the bonus if he delivered anything incriminating. I had everything now. Environmental crimes, arson, burglary, forgery, RICO predicate acts, and a money trail straight to Vivian's personal account. At 4:17 a.m. On June 28th, I sent the encrypted package to the county DA, the state attorney general, the FBI field office I still had friends in, and, because I believe in overkill, the EPA's Criminal Investigation Division. Subject line, Sun Valley Estates HOA, organized fraud and violent felonies, full evidentiary chain attached. I hit send, poured 1 more cup of coffee, and went to sit on the porch. June 30th, 6:58 a.m. The convoy came over the hill like a black tide. 6 unmarked SUVs, for marked sheriff units, 2 evidence vans, a hazmat truck on standby. Hayes led the pack, warrant folded in his hand like a royal flush. They hit the HOA office first. Vivian answered the door in curlers and a silk robe, still believing her name carried weight. Hayes didn't raise his voice. Just read the charges: racketeering, arson, environmental violations, forgery, conspiracy, wire fraud, misuse of emergency services, child endangerment hoax, attempted insurance fraud. The list went on long enough to make a lesser woman faint. The cuffs went on while half the neighborhood watched from their driveways in bathrobes and slippers. Vivian screamed when she saw Mark already in the back of a cruiser. You idiot. You were supposed to. Hayes cut her off. Ma'am, everything you say is being recorded. Her eyes found me across the road. For the first time since I'd met her, Vivian Caldwell looked small. I raised my coffee mug in a small, polite salute and went back inside. She took a plea, 12 years federal prison, full restitution, permanent ban from any fiduciary position, and a lifetime restraining order from ever uttering the letters HOA again. The golf course deal collapsed. The HOA dissolved itself and reformed under new management that actually reads the bylaws before sending letters. I bolted a 12-foot steel post at my gate with a weatherproof sign. Sun Valley Estates Public Record Archive, scan for truth. The QR code links to a site I built in a weekend. Every video, every document, every timestamp, redacted where required, airtight where it counts. It's been visited 1.4 million times and counting. Neighbors I barely knew started leaving six-packs on my porch and eggs from their own coops on Laura's. Sophie's science fair project on layered home surveillance took first place at state. Laura's garden is the envy of 3 counties. And most evenings I sit in the same porch chair, watching the sun bleed out over the ridge that stays mine, listening to the desert settle into the kind of quiet you have to earn. Some fights you don't pick. They pick you. And when they do, you don't always get to choose the weapons. Sometimes the only thing that works is patience, proof, and the willingness to let someone else swing the hammer they forged themselves. Vivian Caldwell swung hers for 112 days. In the end, all I did was hand her the nail. I'd love to hear where you draw the line. When someone in power weaponizes the system against you and your family, calls CPS, tries to burn your home, forges documents to ruin your wife's career, is violence ever justified? Or do you stay on the right side of the law no matter what? Have you ever had to fight an HOA or a petty tyrant who thought rules only applied to everyone else? Drop your stories below. I read every single one. Let's talk about it.